Senate Republican and Democrat negotiators are nearing a deal on a short-term spending measure to avoid a government shutdown. Joining us now is Bloomberg's Annmarie Hordern. Really? ...
Well, okay, there's a few moving pieces when it comes to the potential of the U.S. government shutdown, which, by the way, it does look like we will see one. And our analysts, Rick Davis and Jeannie Sheehan Zaino, have said likely you'll see at least a 48-hour shutdown, at least over the weekend, while they try to figure this out. What we do know, and our Eric Wasson has been reporting up on Capitol Hill, is that the Senate, when they come back, are going to have a plan to vote on the reauthorization of the FAA bill. That bill can be a shell bill for a stopgap funding measure. This would take us 4 to 6 weeks of federal spending past that October 1st, when we run out of government spending money. Remains to be seen some questions of whether Ukraine aid is attached to that. That would cause some problems with some House Republicans. But overall, even if this bill was to get through, and we are seeing in a bipartisan matter with some Democratic negotiations and Republican negotiations on the Senate side, when it ends up in the House, what does Kevin McCarthy do? If that bill were to come from the Senate, does he put it on the floor? Because members of the hard right of his party have said that they'd oust him if he was to put a bill like that on the floor. But potentially he has some cover now, because there are members of the Republican Party, a little bit more centrist, who, if they don't do that, they have their own way of potentially getting through the Speaker to keep the government open by working with Democrats. So that's the Senate side. And the House, they're trying a number of different items. Today they might, I can hear you laughing. Today they might try starting today, 4 appropriation bills. Speaker can potentially have some goodwill with those far-right members that want to see that process go forward before they look at a stopgap funding continuing resolution to keep the government open.
No, I'm laughing because you have the leverage play, right, from, as you say, those in the center, or relatively close to the center, from the Republican Party with those New York seats, and they need to get this through. They want to avoid the government shutdown. And then the kind of extremists, as you might label them, as some would label them, the Greens and the Gateses in the House, and how that all plays out. And McCarthy sitting there in the middle, and he's very vulnerable. I mean, at some point, does that relationship break?
Well, he is very vulnerable, and that's because he only has a 4-seat majority at this point. We did have a congressman that had retired. You do have his number 2, Scalise, is being treatment for cancer treatment. These are very tough margins for the Speaker, and he's dealing with an array of voices, very different voices in his party. Some would call maybe the rebel rousers on the right that want a motion to vacate and want him to lose his speakership, and others that just want to keep the government open and don't want to shut it down because they think that they'll blame will be laid on their hands, and some of them come from Biden districts. So he has a difficult labyrinth that he will be walking through this entire week. But at the moment, it does look like there is that potential for a shutdown this weekend.
Yeah, and history shows that shutdowns are bad for kind of both parties at the end of the day. Especially the ones that are fighting it the most. Annmarie,
no one likes a shutdown.
No one likes a shutdown. Annmarie, thanks a lot.
Especially
really
the journalists covering it.